Hi, everyone. Welcome to Nom Watch Review, part of Nom Talk Network. On the show, we review the latest film drops or throwback celebrating a milestone while eating and drinking our favorite movie snacks or drinks. Um, New announcement that we have merch now, guys. So you can find that on our shop on Twitch in About section, or get the link by typing merch into the chat. Note that subscribers to our Twitch channel get discounts. But I am your host, Erric Ramirez, and right now I am enjoying a lovely IPA because this week has been a week. And I'm also eating some Sour Patch Kids because I am a candy addict and that's what I choose to do. But I want to introduce you to our guests and thank you guys for being here, Ren and Kyle. Ren, go ahead and introduce yourself. This is the first time that I've got to do anything with you, so introduce yourself to everybody out there.
Hi, my name is Ren. I'm a content creator online, but on my free time, I'm a freelance artist slash illustrator. But for the most part, I'm making content on Instagram where I talk about education, but through like my personal lifestyle content perspective as someone who is Korean Peruvian from the deep south, who's also queer, non-binary, and then just the intersectionalities that is. So it's really fun and interesting, and I try to share and hope that it helps people.
That sounds awesome. That is quite like a mix of things, and I definitely am going to start following your content
Oh,
now.
thank you.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's wonderful. That's incredible. But thank you so much for being here. And Kyle, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody out there.
Hi everybody, my name's Kyle. I've been I don't know, I'm not it's that's a tough act to follow. I got nothing cool for me. I got
Oh, you're plenty cool.
no, I'm very cool. I have many cool things. For number one, I'm hanging out with very cool people. That makes me cool by proxy. So,
Hey.
yeah, yes, let's go. No, my name's Kyle, internet content creator as well. Hollywood blogger and film blogger. Um, and today's food and drink of choice is my official Disney 100 years of anniversary cast member water bottle, which was exciting,
Whoa.
and a pint of ice cream because Eric, it has been a week, and I am, yeah, right there with you, buddy.
See, and when we started 2024, I didn't think it would be bad, but here we are. But thank you guys so much for being here. Before we start diving into this movie, I do want to let you guys know that we are back fundraising for the Trevor Project. Our goal is $200 for the LGBTQIA plus History Month. We are at 32% of our goal. So show any support that you can, tell your friends. It would be great to help them out. It's a great cause. But now going on today's show, we are talking about the 2004 Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, as you can see with all the things behind me right now. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie, 20 years. It doesn't even seem that long. But before we start, I want to get your guys' popcorn rating when you first, like, what you think about it, and like when you first saw it, what did you think about it? We'll start with you on this one, Kyle.
So I was a junior in high school, so this was the pivotal millennial moment. And Lindsay Lohan was one of those people that you grew up with. You knew what she was doing. You went from Parent Trap to Herbie the Love Bug. So I was interested in this. I was not this film's target audience, but I was dragged with a couple of friends, and then I revisited it because I saw a YouTuber do a review of it that made me laugh. But at the time, I think my popcorn rating would have been a 2. Now that I'm older and I've looked back on it, it's at a 4, and I will tell you why. Number one, it's a really creative, interesting concept. It's based on a book, isn't it? I think it's based on a book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
it
based
was
on a
based
book.
on
And so I like some of the stuff was just there's some really funny lines in it, but the funny lines, the book, the costumes brought it up to a 3. What brought it up to the 4 was simple plan and the soundtrack. because the one-track teenage drama queen and Simple Plan lyrics were just hit different to junior me in high school. So yeah, 4 popcorn buckets.
Oh yeah, no.
My whole rant.
And it's funny that you said that you were not the target audience. Because like doing this and like researching, their target audience was like 9-year-olds to 11-year-olds.
What?
Yeah. And that was not the audience who actually went and saw it. We were the audience who went and saw it.
That's really weird.
It really drove with them because if you think about it, Lindsay Lohan was kind of in her heyday in this time. She had done Freaky Friday, she had done this, and then after this, she did Mean Girls. So it was just like if Lindsay Lohan was there, our generation was kind of following her and watching the stuff that she did. But I will go to my popcorn rating next. I gave it a 3.5. I've watched it several times this week, mainly for the soundtrack because you could just put it on and just listen to it, and it's great. I did have some issues with like pacing. The storyline kind of seemed disjointed to me. That's why it got so low. But what brought it back up for me was Lindsay Lohan's costuming because she had a look for everything and it was just so precise and pristine and fantastic. But yeah, that's why I had to give it a 3.5. Ren, what was your popcorn rating?
So my popcorn rating was a solid 3 because for me, I've never seen this movie before. Like I watched it legit this week and it's been my first time because I remember watching a couple of Lindsay Lohan movies when I was young, but I don't think my parents really let me watch a lot of movies in general as I got a little bit older. And I think once like teenage me got to a certain age, my parents were just like, just focus on books. So not a lot of movies for me. So especially when it comes to like American culture movies, for me, my family was very much focused on like foreign films. But so Lindsay Lohan, I knew about her, but I didn't really watch a lot of the movies that she was in until more recently. And this is definitely one that I watched this week, and I was like, oh wow, this is very much reminiscent of the early 2000s. So definitely points for nostalgia, points for the costumes, very much the music as well, because like I recognize some of the music. I think for me, I would have to say like the story was not as, it did not flow as well. And there were a lot of moments where we're like, I don't remember how did, there was love involved. I didn't really get a lot of that nuance there. So there was a lot of moments where I was like, I don't understand how that happened or where this came from and why, but it's cute. I like it. It's a little like cute little campy movie. And the friendship aspect of it was very sweet. So points for that.
Yes, no, I totally agree with you. That friendship aspect was something in the early 2000s that you didn't quite see a lot. There was typically like that close friendship, and then they like break apart and have a big fight and not never talk again, and then come back at the end. This was kind of a thorough thing, which I do appreciate. But let's get into it, guys. So, brief synopsis of the movie. It says that Mary Elizabeth Stepp, or Lola, played by Lindsay Lohan, is an ambitious teen girl who goes by the name of Lola and aspired to be famous stage actress. Lola's dream is to perform on Broadway, suffers a sex setback when her family moves to New York City to a suburb in New Jersey. Determined to make the best of it, however, Lola embarks on a mission to become the most popular girl in her high school, a goal that sets her on a collision course with the caddy Carla Santini, played by Megan Fox, which, fun fact, this was her first movie and her debut to us. So in this movie, like you see New York and her over dramatizing her move to New Jersey, because I mean, sorry for all my Jersey folks out there, but nobody wants to live in Jersey. So she goes to New Jersey, she gets into this high school, and she meets her now best friend, Ella. They both love a band called Sid Arthur. They think that their songs are the best since Shakespeare, everything like that. Then Lola goes through her trials and tribulations through school, not wanting to be the popular girl because she's kind of a nice person. And so she becomes friends with Ella. She meets a boy And they kind of have sparks. She finds out that Sid Arthur is breaking up, and it's the worst thing that she ever heard in her life. And they must go see this last show that's happening in New York. So their plans go to that. But also in this, she is auditioning and gets the lead role as Eliza in an updated version of Pygmalion, which is going to be a rock opera. So she's going through rehearsals for that. Also trying to go to New York to go see Sid Arthur, which there's this whole train debacle where they're getting ready. They can't get scalper tickets. They lose their money. They end up at a party with Sid Arthur and have a joyous time. Get back. Megan Fox calls them a liar that she wasn't there. And then they go through the play and it turns out to be wonderful, huge success. They go to an after party. Lead singer of Sid Arthur comes and gives her necklace back, and Megan Fox's character Carla is proved to be like this liar. And then joy beyond joys, they just go on with life. We'll start with you on this, Ren, because it's your first time seeing the movie. What did you think about the movie, the plot line of this film?
I think the general idea of the plot was very much like you can be your own superstar wherever you go. It doesn't have to be necessarily like New York. And then also, I think it also comes down to like you don't need the validation of other people to like tell you who you are, what you've done, and what you have experienced. So there's that. I think that's like the message that I got from it. The actual plot itself was a little all over the place because I felt like there was multiple storylines that I think were parallel to each other. Like obviously the play that she's in, she's playing this character that has to like kind of fake or like go through these like trials and tribulations of developing as a person, like Eliza Doolittle. And then she herself in real life is going through these her own trials and tribulations of going through high school and then trying to go to this concert and meet Sid Arthur. And at the same time, developing lies into her character, which is interesting. So there's a lot of layers there. But then there's moments where I'm also kind of like shocked, not shocked, kind of like sidetracked because of the romance aspect at the end. But other than that, I think the plot itself was fine. So there's layers to it, which I enjoyed. But I feel like it just wasn't executed as well as it could have been.
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree with you because, like I said, that is a lot of the issue that I have with the movie. There was so many ideas of the concert, the play, her trying to figure out high school, and then this random love that happened, like they fulfill at the end, but there's kind of no build up to it. Plus her pathological lying through the film, which is kind of touched base on when they're in the police station, but then everything
Not
is fine.
really.
No.
Yeah.
But watching it as much as I have this week, just purely based off the soundtrack, I realized this is very reminiscent of early 2000 Disney films. Is they just kind of threw everything in there and was just like, we're going to give you a little bit of everything and you're going to enjoy it because you're just going to enjoy it. So this is very reminiscent of that. And for me to see Lindsay Lohan, because I had obviously watched The Parent Trap and all of those, to see her in this role and then jump to her next role, which is Mean Girls, was this very different. Like this was for me, very Mean Girls-esque without the grit and the adult content. It started off being like that, and then Mean Girls fulfilled that for her, which is very, looking back on it, I'm just like, oh wow, that was very interesting, but it's Disney. But Kyle, what did you think about this film?
There's something to be said about films in the early 2000s that focused on feminine liberation, and it always follows a certain pattern. There's always a cisgendered, possibly white female who moves to the suburbs and has a strict adventure about the trials and tribulations of high school. What made this different for me? Also, I'm so distracted by that poster because all it's doing is giving me Taylor Eras Tour, and I'm just like, this is
This is Taylor before Taylor.
This is Taylor before Taylor, but see that's just it. It's that it's such an archetype. So I wasn't necessarily surprised by the layers. I mean, I was very conditioned to look for them. They weren't my thing.
Mhm.
I wasn't really particularly interested in the love aspect. I really enjoyed some of the lines. Going back, I'll save that because I've got some thoughts watching it because when I saw it when I saw it when I was younger and then saw it recently, I've got some thoughts about how it changed the story a little bit for me. But as far as the plot goes, I mean, it was fine. It was something that you're conditioned to like. There's a whole scene in the film with the Domino's pizza. It's Domino's. You order it when you're hungry, you eat it, then you throw the box out, and you're like, I've had food. You know, I ate. Peace. Was it particularly satisfying for some people? Sure, Domino's is a transformative experience because they really enjoy Domino's. I like Domino's a lot, but you know, it's not something I regularly need to consume. Is this because I had Domino's today? Probably, but no. This was the Domino's of films. It was well done, well packaged, tastes good for the moment, but I wouldn't eat it all the time.
So what I'm hearing you say is this is the cheap version of Mean Girls.
Yeah,
No, I'm joking.
He's so excited about Mean Girls.
I am. I'm super excited. Once I found that out today, I was just like, I have to talk about it, and that's apparently all I'm talking about. But anyway, back to the movie we're talking about. So yeah, no, I get what you guys are saying. Like, it is what it is. It was early 2000s. It's what Disney gave us. Look at Freaky Friday. Look at what's called the Hilary Duff movie. Like it gave us. That's what they did. They had a blueprint. This is what they gave us, and we all enjoyed it and ate it up. But moving on from that, what did you guys think of like the directing of this film and like the cinematography of it? Because this is actually where I actually came up in my popcorn rating, because I did like how they shot it. I loved the dream sequences that they would kind of do with her. I just thought like the running scenario in the hallway between her and Megan Fox and the concert and the party and everything like that was very well done, very well shot, and they knew what they were doing when they were doing it. Not just like, okay, we have to do this, we have the outline of it, but they actually took the time to do it, which I really appreciated from this film. What did you think about that, Kyle?
I think it's a lot cleaner. I mean, I made the comparison to Domino's. I choose Domino's instead of say Little Caesars or Pizza Hut because for me it's a higher. I don't know why I'm so sorry. I keep comparing this film to pizza.
Well, at the time, to be fair, Domino's was the lesser than Little Caesars and Pizza Hut. Now it has up, so you are enjoying it a lot more, and that's what you choose.
This is the metaphor that Eric was talking about. Much like his, it raised the level. I see where he went with this. It's brilliant. But no, it was a lot better than what I had initially expected back then. And when you compare it to Freaky Friday, which I also watched, and when you compare it to a lot of those other 2000s, like I said, cisgendered, vaguely heterosexual white girl who lives in the suburbs, consumes high school drama, and very squeaky clean, always has a message, always has this felt a lot. This was a lot more attention was paid to how it was filmed, so I liked it. I liked the sound design, and also like just it just felt very 2000s, and every kid had those little notebooks where you scribbled in like 500 different pens and you doodled, and so it was very nostalgic. And you did feel kind of seen by that. Even if I really wasn't this film's target audience. But it's yeah, it was clean, and it's a lot better done cinematography wise and everything than a lot of the other films at the time. So
yeah. No, and you mentioning nostalgia and everything for us now that we're older and we watch and stuff like that, it gives us the early 2000s. Like they mentioned, Megan Fox has to mention at one point that on my cell phone, my dad called me, which we don't mention now because everybody has a cell phone.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's like those little things of nostalgia that I think they were, because like I said, their target audience was 9 to 11, didn't intend to pull the people who were older than that who were watching this into that.
So
But it still gave us nostalgia things because we were all in abouts around the high school era. And so like it just pulled us into that nostalgia era, which I do love this film for that. But what do you think about this, the cinematography and everything?
I personally really, again, like when you mentioned the dream sequences, or like whenever she would like go into storytelling mode, I really love the way they would film that, because it felt very cartoony, kind of scrapbooky also. So I love the way they would do that. That was just really fun. It kind of gives you like an insight of her mind and how it translates really well also into her outfit decisions. I don't know why that was, but I thought that was really great. And for me, that was brilliant for me. I really love that. When you mentioned the running scene, the whole time I'm thinking I could never. I would cry. Just falling over in heels every time. Like kudos to them or their stunts. I don't know who did that, but like a lot of those scenes where they were running over each other, tripping each other, like it was a fun classic trope of like just enemies trying to get in each other's way. So I really enjoyed that one as well. And I think one of the scenes that I really enjoyed also was obviously the beginning. Just it's so dramatized. It's so she's like, I'm moving, mother.
Oh,
like,
Mom, you forgot this.
myself.
Thank you for letting me live in New York by myself. I'm like, nobody's going to let what's
I'm like,
called
what
13,
is
14-year-old girl live in New York by herself. No.
please? But I just love the way it was like so dramatic, and then you get the cut to just them in the car, and it's just like a normal family. And so I really enjoyed that. There were a lot of moments where it's just so dramatic, and I think that fits her so well. So that for me was my favorite part of like the filming, or the direction of why they went that way.
Okay. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And sorry, was distracted, and that's going to be another question here soon. But yeah, no, I all of everything that you were talking about, like the hallway scene and everything like that. I think it was them doing it. I believe it was them doing
Kudos to them.
That's a feat. That is an absolute feat. I have not. No.
Right, running in hill. I mean, granted, they were both on like platform hills, and trust me, platform hills are way easier to run in than like stilettos. I've done it. I've been there. I'm an actor. Like,
but gravity though.
But
oh my god.
No, and like, so we'll talk about this before, because I'm about to get into casting. But speaking of that, I do appreciate that, because this is kind of like mid Lindsay's career before she had like her falling out later on in life and everything like that. This is the start of Megan Fox's career. What I appreciate about, especially with like that running scene, is because you see them and they're so committed to it, so committed to the falls and everything like that. And I was just actually talking to my partner about this. It's like Megan Fox, this being her first film, and like with what she was in, with like the skirt and the everything, and wanted to be pristine, she would fall. And there's a part when they're running on the like wet floor where it's mopped, to where she falls and she takes time to kind of stop and like adjust herself before running.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that proves to you that Megan Fox took the time to be like, this is what my character would do. And I just appreciate it, because I feel like everybody throughout this movie kind of did that. But going on, let's get into casting, guys. So obviously we have Lindsay Lohan, who plays Lola, who was the lead. We have Alison Pill, which this is one of her first movies too. I think before this she did a Judy Garland biopic type thing, and so that's really what she was known for before this. Then we have Ali Marenthal as Sam, who was the love interest friend thing.
Yeah.
And we have Carol Kane as Miss Begoli, who was the wonderful, wonderful theater teacher. We have Adam Garcia as Stu Wolf, who is the lead singer of the band. We have Glenn Headley as her mother. And then we have Megan Fox as Carla, the enemy. And then we have Thomas McCammon as Caleb, who was the father, because there's a lot of other people, but these are like the main ones. What did you think about this casting? And after your thoughts, I have another question to peg for you. So, what did you think about this casting? Did you think it was the right choices, and how do you think they did? We'll start with you on this one, Ren.
Okay. For me, Lindsay Lohan's role was, I think, ideal. Her friend also, like, whoever their designer, costume designer, and casting did such an amazing job making her seem like very much the daughter of a politician.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the vibe. Like, she has obviously her own individuality where she does the little pins and everything, but very much catered, like her whole aesthetic is catered very much like, I can't mess up and I have to reflect perfection, not just because not only will it look bad on me, but it'll look bad on my parents. And like there's so much layers to that. Megan Fox's character was really fun. I enjoyed her a lot. Mostly because she got to be the mean girl for that movie. But I think there was also at the end where she kind of is more humanized and is like, oh hey, like I messed up, and Lindsay Lohan's like extends a hands of friendship. Basically, is I really enjoyed the way that Megan really portrayed that scene because she like you could see almost like the mask just falls off. She's like she feels shameful for what she's done. She feels embarrassed, and like I really love the way that she portrayed that moment, even though it was just like a brief one. But I really love that because I think it leveled up. Like that for me also leveled up the movie. It was just like, okay, it's not just Mean Girl versus Mean Girl or like enemies. It's like we can be friends. There is a way that we can work through this together. Like we don't have to be enemies. And I really enjoyed that, like that moment of forgiveness and redemption. As for everyone else, they were okay. Oh, the teacher, the music teacher, loved her. Or the not music, the theater teacher. I loved her. She was just really fun and kind of like gave me a lot of anxious energy. But I think that's kind of what you want for a drama teacher. So I loved her energy a lot. But everyone else is kind of like, okay, they're playing a role and I can see it, but I didn't really see much beyond that.
Oh yeah, no, everybody's playing their role. Before I get to you, Kyle, I do want to say like Carol Kane, like to cast her as Miss Bagoli, the like theater teacher, I thought
I
was
loved
brilliant
her.
because she has been in so many movies. Like she's in Princess Bride, like everything, and this is her shtick. She can do it. She could be that frantic, like perfect casting. The one thing I do have to say, Lindsay Lohan has done this role before, and like it's old hat. Like she can do it. We know she could do it. Surprising thing to me, and as you were mentioning, the scene where Megan Fox falls into the fountain, and you see that change on her face and everything like that. Going on for Megan Fox's movies, I don't think people took her as seriously as they did for this movie because she's either the
Right.
sex bot or something like that. Like they just like typecast her into this thing to where this movie she wasn't sexualized at all, and they were just like let's let you be funny, let's let you be catty, let's let you have this arc, which I enjoy, and I'm just like, oh yeah, like she can do this, which I completely forgot she could do, which is wonderful. The love interest Sam after this movie stopped acting. He's not
Oh,
doing
okay.
anything. He just
Okay.
like
Really? Oh my
went
gosh.
on to that. Funny enough, though, I did find out that Eli Marienthal, who played the love interest, played the voice of the little boy in the Iron Giant, and I would have never
Really?
connected those two dots.
What?
Yeah, yep, he was the voice. So he did those two things, and he dipped out of Hollywood. So,
Okay. All right.
but yeah, no, Lindsay Lohan, okay, she can do it.
Yeah.
Megan, my standout for this is Megan Fox because I think she did really do a very good job for this.
Mhm.
But Kyle, what are your thoughts on these casting?
So I have a weird standout with this, but it does have to start. Everything in the movie stops and starts with Lindsay Lohan. She is bright. She's effervescent. She's obviously giving main character energy. She is just here, but she has to carry that, because if she didn't carry it as this glowing sun sort of individual, the rest of the film wouldn't seem, the change in drama wouldn't seem as like obvious. But for me, the standouts admittedly were her parents. And I'll tell you why. Because her mom's whole hippie attitude was just absolutely hilarious to me. And like, my mother doesn't believe in microwaves. Her mom's whole like flighty attitude, but then her dad, who looks like some kind of gangster. He looks like
Richard.
I mean, he's sitting there and he's like out there looking really rough and tumble and tough, but the dichotomy comes with, you have someone who is very learning how to be who they are, and then puts out this very shining self on the outside with being very insecure on the inside. But then you have all of the people that surround her who are come off as extremely ordinary and extremely normal, but on the inside, like, the dad writes children's books about the dog. And he's this guy who looks like I've been in situations where I've met people who my immediate impression has been, this person couldn't possibly do this. And I remember vividly speaking to my personal experience. I was in a situation with someone where I said, "Oh, you couldn't possibly do this," and that person said, "Actually, Kyle, I'm your boss, and you've never met me, but I'm the big boss." And I was like, "Oh no," but that's what this is true. It's true. I assumed that this individual had a job that I did not know what that job was. And I was like, "Oh, you obviously work as a custodian." And he said, "No, actually, I'm the president." And I'm like, "Oh,
Hi, I'm Kyle.
hi.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm so sorry." But that's what this was. It's like I tend to, probably because of such a steady diet of these kinds of movies, tend to base a lot of things on stereotypes. And it's a hard habit to shake, but Lindsay's character arc, learning how to do that, was very impressive for her. But what really was impressive is all the people around her who looked very ordinary to her and then came out as extraordinary.
Mhm.
Oh no. And I definitely recognize that too. I think that's also another point of why I gave this a 3.5. I mean, costumes is the 0.5 alone, but a 3.5 is because obviously Lindsay Lohan in 2004, you drop her name, she's a star. And everybody else around her, because we didn't know Alison Pill, we didn't know Eli Marienthal. People knew Carol Kane, but like she hadn't been this like every movie actress in a long time. Neither did her mother or anything, and nobody knew who Megan Fox was. So for all these people to pick up the bar and just like support the entire movie cast is brilliant to me. I think they all did a fantastic job, and that proves how hard they worked on this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to say this after casting. So Lindsay Lohan was not initially cast as Lola in 2004's Confessions of a Teenage Drama King. The first person who actually ended up turning it down, who was cast and then turned it down, was Hilary Duff, who was also a household name.
Yeah.
So I feel like this movie with Hilary would have gone somewhat the same, because they kind of have the same acting tones in early 2000s.
Yeah.
But the musical part of it, I think, would have been a little bit elevated, because I mean, I may be biased. I think Hilary Duff has a way better voice than Lindsay Lohan. So those scenes would have been slightly elevated. But there is an entire list of people who were actually up for this role besides Lindsay Lohan. And I'm going to read them to you now, and then I want your thoughts, because I had thoughts.
Okay.
The last one is actually the one that really gets me. But okay, so we had Aisha Tyler, was
Okay.
up for the role of Lola. Judy Greer, Alexa Vega, Rachel McAdams, Anna Faris, and then the last one, which caught me very off guard, Christina Aguilera.
Really?
How? What are your thoughts on any of these people being cast for this role? I mean, they all would have had their own interpretation, but like
Yeah.
reading now, 20 years later, I'm just like, huh. What are your thoughts on this, like, weird people who were up for the role, especially Christina Aguilera, because she didn't do anything till burlesque acting wise. And they even mentioned her name in the movie. So, what are your thoughts on this? We'll start with you on this one, Ren.
I'm still trying to process. Well, excuse me? I feel like Aisha Taylor would have been an interesting choice. Christina Aguilera that definitely caught me off guard. But if the movie incorporated a lot more singing, then maybe. Because Christina Aguilera was in a couple of musicals, right? So musical movies,
She was in burlesque.
right?
Nobody comments on the acting of burlesque, but the singing.
True. But the singing.
And ship.
So maybe. But I don't, because this movie is not really like super musical, I don't think Christina would have been a good fit. And I don't know much about her acting skills, so then definitely not that. Yeah, that's an interesting list. I'm still processing. What was the question?
So, I mean, you kind of touched base on it, but
Okay.
now I'm going to rephrase it a little bit. So, considering that technically Lindsay Lohan was the second option, how do you think Hilary Duff would have done in this role?
Honestly, I feel like Hilary Duff would have been a better fit just because of all the dream sequences and like narrative eye talking. It gives me very much Lizzie McGuire, like with her little cartoon coming out and talking and like coming up with these little scenarios. I can kind of see how they came up with Hilary Duff as like the first choice.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, and trust me, I have tried to deep dive and find out, because she had the role. I've tried to find out why she said no to it. Can't find anything anywhere.
That's so interesting.
But yeah, it would have been such, I think, I mean, not to say that I don't enjoy the movie, but I think it would have just elevated it for me, because that's also her very much niche. With the Lizzie McGuire show, her singing, everything like this rings Lizzie McGuire, and then they just kind of like threw Lindsay Lohan into it, who could also do it, but I'm not gonna say not as well, because she can do it, but like now knowing that Hilary was cast first, I'm just like, okay. But Kyle, what are your thoughts on this weird list of people who were up for the role and Hilary Duff?
So I have two responses to this. One of them is an agreement and an observation, and the other one is not necessarily the most complimentary to a person I feel like might have been involved in this. But that's just me being me and me being me. First of all, I think that I have to agree with Ren, because I completely always forget that Hilary Duff, with the Lizzie McGuire little characters would have made a lot more sense with how they shot the film. So it does feel like that actually would have been a really interesting take. There's so much effervescence and feeling that comes out of Lindsay's performance, though, and I always have to wonder if she drew anything from her relationship with Dina Lohan, because the idea of having a daughter who is just trying to argue with her parent about how she wants to do things, and even if they're in agreement that she wants to be an actress, it's like adding that dynamic on set, since Dina Lohan was such a show parent, in the worst of the ways. I saw in
the film.
Say what?
Dina Lohan is in the film because she was that much of a film. Yeah.
She's just sitting there like shoving her other kids in the background, just being like, look.
She literally did. There was a cousin, an aunt, and her in the film that they put in when they're walking to Sid Arthur's party in New York.
Oh my
People
god.
in the background are Lindsay's family.
But see, that's just it. If
What?
you're gonna tell a
Mhm.
story about a girl who's trying to stand out and escape from her family, what better way to make art from life than cast a Lohan in a film where you're gonna deal with that whole family literally living the drama and forcing everyone to deal with. I don't like stage parents, forcing everyone to deal with that because. So while I think Hilary Duff for the story would have been a better casting, um, I think that Lindsay, given the way that Lindsay's mother was and the way that a lot of that happened, I think that added layers to it beyond the story, which made it make more sense. And I would have really liked to have seen Aisha Tyler in this. That would have
That
been
would have been so cool.
like that would have been really like a big studio backing on something like that. That would have been really interesting. What
See, and like I thought that too, but then thinking back on it, Aisha Tyler was too old at this moment. Because when Lindsay did this movie, when Lindsay did this movie, she was 17. Aisha Tyler would have been 24, 25 because she had already done Friends. So I feel like it would have been a weird trying to bring somebody down because she could have looked the age, but I still would have felt it would have been a weird dichotomy.
Okay.
Just having, yeah, but it would have been interesting still.
Oh
But
yeah,
that's my 2 cents is that Hilary Duff would have made more sense for the story. Lindsay carried the story and also carried it outside of the film because there's no one who's more teenage
life
drama.
imitating art or art imitating life, however you want to look at it.
Mhm.
But before we get to our next question, I want to jump into the chat because it is actually very active tonight, guys.
Oh, okay.
I know. So we're gonna start with our dear friend Q. Hi Q, welcome back.
Hi, Q.
Hi,
Q says, "Hey all, sorry I'm late, and I would rate this a 4 out of 5. I like this film, but I don't love it. My reason is the vibe of it was geared towards young girls of the time. I think Lindsay was a good actress, but think the acting could be better. Ergo, Hilary Duff." um, Also, let's see. Q also says, I think her character was down to a T of how young girls acted and thought at the time. Getting back to my point, Lindsay is a good actress, but I think Freaky Friday is a little better. Also, I think she would have been good at dramas and horror movies, but Lindsay was put in a box in these teen pop vibe movies. Very much in the early 2000s, she was boxed into that Freaky Friday, Mean Girls, everything like that. So he is very right. Oh, yeah. So I'm gonna keep reading what we have in the comments, but Q did redeem You're So Punny, and he redeemed it for Ren. So Ren, you have to come up with a pun. I will give you some time to think about it.
I have to think
As I
of a
continue
pun.
reading these
What kind of
comments.
pun? With whom?
Any kind of pun. Trust me. For these reasons, because I'm so afraid of it, because I'm not punny, I have like a list pulled up on my Google. But think of a pun, research, ask your friends and family, call.
I'm the one that started You're So Punny. No one ever hits me with the punny. People fear my genius, I guess.
Last week, last podcast, I got Jen with a punny, and that was her first one ever. I've gotten hit with it too, and it's actually very nervous. I'm not punny. I'm funny, but I'm not punny. It freaks me out. But we will continue with the chat as Ren, you look for a pun. Go ahead and research on the computer. Google is your friend. Uh, but Timspiration, hello Timspiration, says, I don't know if I'd say she was a how young girls act. It's definitely exaggerated, and I think this more what adult writers exaggerate their childhoods into. It's very curated. It is a very curated look on early 2000s life from other people's point of view. I'll leave it at other people's point of view. Let's see. Also, Q did agree with you, Kyle. Stage parents are just pure shit. I'm glad my parents were never like that, which we can all agree.
Yeah.
Stage parents are crap. There's a point to where they can assist you or be a detriment to you. Look how many of them have gotten sued. So, but Ren, did you happen to find a pun for our lovely, lovely Q?
I did. Thank you, Google.
I
This
told you,
one.
that's
And for me in particular, I like the really cringy ones because they're my favorite. So this one is, why did Adele cross the road? To say hello from the other side.
Okay, so Ren, you're now one of my favorite people because that's the one I've had in my back pocket for whenever it gets called on me. So I have to find a new one.
So, Eric, Ren, what you're saying is that pun has been a fire rolling in your heart.
Yes.
See, Q, you get 2 for 1. 2 for 1.
I love
no, and we in the chat, both Nom Talk Network and Q are rolling laughing with laughing faces.
Yes.
So you guys did a good job. Bravo. So, because we're getting short on time here. So my last question for you guys, one of my last questions. Do you think this film that was made 20 years ago holds up well and to different standards that we have now? How do you think this film holds up? We'll start with you on this one, Kyle.
No. That's it. Game over. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Okay. If we want to be blunt here, then we shall be blunt. I could pick up a number of different things, namely the cultural appropriation of the bindies that she was wearing.
Oh my god.
I am ashamed to admit, and I will take my L with grace, that I own some of those Hot Topic players bindies because I am truly sorry about that. These movies lied to me and told me they were cool. The chopsticks in the hair, but the thing that gets me is her relationship with Siddhartha and how that grown man had her in his bedroom with the other girl and then came to the party and was just like, oh, we can be friends, sure.
Want to slow down?
Let's dance.
I have your necklace. Let me put your necklace on all smexy like. And I'm like, sir, this is grooming. The worst behavior. And it was actually really kind of stunning to me how a lot of how a lot of the standards have changed since then, because I owned and mentioned, when you're sold these kind of things and they look a certain way, you really do get told that this is appropriate and this is okay. And a lot of that came from these movies, and now you have people who complain about, oh well, people are too sensitive, and it's like, no, people aren't too sensitive. They were just ignorant. I was ignorant. I was an ignorant person watching these things and thinking that the way that they behaved was cool. But again, this stuff with Siddhartha and the way that she behaved with the band, I was just like, how did we get away with this? Oh, 2 girls in a grown man's room. No, especially if he's got. So the answer I stand by is no, and I've been sitting on that all episode.
So, I will say a couple of things. First off, I did forget to mention, Tim Spiration also said, very well done, Ren, on your pun. Bravo,
well, thank you.
Bravo.
Yay!
Thanks, Google.
The one thing about that bedroom scene is I always wanted some of those pairs of the like thigh high Chuck Taylors. Always wanted one of those.
Yeah, I thought those were cool.
But we do have a consensus with you, Kyle, and I even agree with this, is that was very problematic with the bedroom, the dancing, like it was weird. I do have to say this though. the bedroom scene and the end of the movie where Sid Arthur comes and places the necklace and they dance, that is not actually in the book. That is a pure Disney choice that they added into the movie. Yeah, so that makes it a little bit more problematic for me because I'm like,
What?
you make your money off of music and you're doing this. Okay. Okay.
Shame.
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 I wish I had a bell right now.
What?
But Ren, what are your thoughts on does this movie hold up?
I would have to agree with Kyle. Like, obviously, the things that Kyle said about the whole, I forgot his name, Sid Arthur guy, Wolf.
Yes. Wolf. Stu.
Dude, I was just like, where are your parents? Like, do the parents know? And then at the end, where
It was there. It was weird.
that's the thing. And then, like, at the end, where he's like, "Yeah, your dad told me that you're over here." I'm like, and you just show up. And that's okay. And the dad's okay with that. What about the mom? I had so many questions. And then people just like at this party, I'm like, where's adult supervision? They're just gonna let a stranger enter this home?
But her dad's his lawyer. It's fine.
I had so many questions. I was like, my parents would never.
Miss Bugoli was there. It's fine.
And then I think it was just also like, I mean, obviously, I think it was more on the line with the friend because some of the things was dangerous. Like, I would have to agree, like, yeah, these things are dangerous. And what Lindsay did to put them in danger, despite them eventually, if somehow it all miraculously works out, but like, that's not guaranteed. I can't say that's a good idea. And if children nowadays are watching that, I'd be like, no, don't travel at night in New York by yourself. That's just not a smart move.
Okay. So in that aspect of it, I do have to say, I do know a lot of people in New York or from New York, and
Yeah.
I lived in New York and everything. That's just kind of what they did as kids.
That's scary. What?
They just like carried a knife or something. But it's changed now, but back then that was very much the thing. So
no, yeah.
Well, see, with that too, like also, it's not that I don't have any issue. There, it really does speak to the difference between generational gaps because that was, and like I said earlier, with like the standard you were supposed to aspire to and things that you were supposed to think were cool, even though you were ignorant, was like, yeah, you could totally. The goal was to have all your parents out of the house, and then you have a massive house party, and you bring adults over apparently, and that's never been a problem. And it was supposed to be this sense of freedom and funniness, and then you look back at it and you're like, a lot of really terrible things could have happened.
No, and I completely agree with you. But it's like you look back to that early 2000 era, we have like American Pie, we have all of these movies that did do that because they were just like, this is the norm, this is what you're supposed to grow up with, this is how you grow up. I'm just like, no. I do have to jump in the chat for a little bit because Kyle, your response did innate a reaction in the comments. Timspiration or okay, so Timspiration first said agreed. Oh my god, so problematic. Then Nom Talk Network says on the nose, Kyle, bravo. Timspiration then goes into it's shocking how much just slid by without any scrutiny. That's not true, but the scrutiny was only about entertainment and sellability rather than consideration for safety, grooming, or ethics. Foolish, but also guarded. At least real people know how to expect. This created unrealistic expectations for people who don't have context or knowledge, and young kids especially, which I completely agree with. This film did give expectations to a certain amount of life or thing that you should not do or was not safe and problematic for the future. Just problematic. And I don't think this movie aged well. With what she got away with and everything. Like the New York thing didn't bother me, but like the Sid Arthur thing, the party thing, and everything like that was just very cringy to me. My other thing is, one, how does a mother who is a potter, who I think she only makes a couple of art pots every once in a while, afford to move from New York in a movie van and buy a house and afford all these clothes and everything like that, and then scoff at the fact that she spent $600 fixing her car and buying a kiln? Like, I'm just like, okay, unrealistic, because my parents could never do that. But unfortunately, guys, we are getting too out of time. Unless you two either had a response to Inspiration's scrutiny and everything like that. Did you either one do? Go ahead.
I think that Ren, do you have anything you want to?
The only thing I could approve of, or I think was somewhat of note as someone who's non-binary, was that you can change your name and people should respect it no matter at what time or age you're at. And it took time for her mom to finally figure it out and call her Lola at the end. But I was like, she should have been calling her Lola from the beginning.
Yes. Mm-hmm. As another non-binary person, I completely and utterly agree.
That's
and also
my partner
I also, in that spirit, I do want to point out something else that's extremely problematic that I did borrow from one of the essayists I watched on this film. I can think of a grand total of 2 people of color in this film who were in the background, and the rest of them were whiter than white. It was a literal ghost convention out there for people. I was just like, oh my goodness. And then I was watching this essay. It's like, look, there they are, the 2 of them. And I'm like,
oh, way back there.
All the way in the back, huh? Sus.
I didn't want to say it earlier because but I was like, this is an interpretation for me, Latino man who grew up in this time and everything. This was an interpretation of what Caucasian people could get away with at the time.
No, it's true. It's true. And I will own that. And I will own that as somebody watching this film from that perspective, because when you grow up and you're fed a steady diet of buy the things that you need to buy, sell the things you need to sell, you'll have all of these things given to you. You do approach everything in life after seeing movies like this from a place of ignorance and from a place of like, well, I am entitled because I'm the teenage drama queen. And it takes it's a lifetime of trying to unlearn it. I mean, they're fun, but again, it's like fast food. You don't want to eat fast food all the time. You get sick of fast food all the time. And some fast food just should not exist, and hopefully does not exist going forward. It's just like this one, the Lohan movies, especially when you learn about what's going on behind the scenes with Dina. I do have issues with the family and with how Disney handled things. And then especially with everything else coming out now about the 90s to early 2000s actors and actresses and how they were treated, you really do realize that it's a culture that taught people that they could get away with anything, and it went from the top down. So I see that now, and I'm going to be looking at that through that expression, Eric. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, and it was definitely, watching it as much as I did now, everything like that, I definitely realized, like, we have laws against this now of how parents did, how production companies acted, how they can really kind of do things. I mean, we still get portrayals of stuff like that, but there's like disclaimers and everything like that. But yeah, no, definitely, it was early 2000s, 90s was a different time that were just like, our minds were jello and they just kind of molded. Ren, do you have any final thoughts about this?
It was a movie.
It was a movie. You put that on the t-shirt. It was a
movie.
It was a movie. I saw it.
I can finally say I saw it, because so for so many years people would be like, oh my god, Lindsay Lohan, and like, have you seen his movies? And I'm like, no, or I maybe kind of remember it. But yeah, this one was definitely one on the list I've never seen, so I can finally say I've seen it.
I mean, but then we see Lindsay Lohan in like her heyday with like Parent Trap and this and everything like that, and then we see what kind of happened to her career, and then like she's kind of building back up now and stuff like that. It was just like, there's a whirlwind of Disney and mess and blah
She was
But
just not protected. She was not safe.
it's worth to see it once.
Yeah.
If only to judge it, it's worth to see it once.
At least for the outfits. Honestly, that was good. The outfits were good.
Like I said, that's why I gave it the extra 0.5. Her costumes in this movie were.
We didn't even talk about the music. Simple Plan.
I know.
Oh, and the music. You can okay. Touch base on the music.
That's all I've got. Simple Plan. I'm not a perfect person. Was great. Lindsay Lohan sings Lindsay Lohan's a great artist. She did have a good voice. She sings very well. She's a very talented individual. The tragedy of things like this, I'm being nice. The tragedy of I see Eric looking at me like
She's a talented actress.
Talented actress.
She's a subpar vocalist.
One top team.
You know, that's nice.
I'm trying to be nice. No, she's a talented actress. I think that I don't know. The important thing to remember is that it had a good soundtrack and it had Simple Plan, and I like Simple Plan. That's it. That's all I got on that one.
I do love that Simple Plan was through it. I do give Lindsay Lohan, That Girl is a Teenage Drama Queen, that big production number at the end. That was fantastic. Like her singing and her dancing and the whole production of it. I did love that. I did truly love that. But we are out of time, guys. So I do want to get your guys' final thoughts on this movie. Do you recommend it to people out there? And also, where can people find you? We'll start with you on this one, Kyle.
So you can find me on Blue Sky at Kyle Poddig. That's KYLEPODDIG. At Blue Sky, you can find me at gosh, where am I these days? You can find me at Carolyn in Fandom, CAROLYNINFANDOM. And that's my Instagram account. And you can find me at Caroline Cosplay, CAROLING_cosplay on TikTok. And I'm trying to get back into more commentary things because lately I've been so inspired to do a lot of it. And I am looking for freelance work, everyone. So if you're interested, I have quite a bit of resume that I can show, especially because it's under, most of the stuff I've written is under my dead name, and I would much rather have work known by Kyle. So.
Oh yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for being here and discussing this movie. Ren, where can everybody find you out there?
Corpus Ren on all platforms. CORPUSREN. That's me.
Well, thank you for being here. And I am your host, Erric Ramirez. You can find me on all platforms at Heartless7. That's HARTL, the number 3, SS7. But again, that's all we have time for. So thank you all for tuning in, and be sure to join our Discord to keep this conversation going, as well as subscribing to all of our platforms at Nom Talk Network. Tune into our next show, which is Wednesday, which I'll also be there, to discuss Madam Web. But join us there. But thank you all for being here, and everybody have a nomorific day.
It's webbing time.